Okay. So we're diving into the world of Python today. Got a whole bunch of your sources right here. And seems like you're really trying to wrap your head around it.
Yeah, it's definitely having its moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can say that again. One article even mentioned Python being used for like everything. Building websites, powering AI. It's kind of wild. I'll be honest, before all this research, I always thought it was for, hardcore tech geniuses only.
It's a common misconception, for sure. What's interesting about Python is how approachable it is. It was actually designed to be easily readable.
So we're not talking about some brand new code language.
No, not at all. Python's been around since the late 80s, which, when you think about it, really speaks to how effective and adaptable it is.
Wow, older than I am. Okay, so it's got some history. But what makes it so popular, especially now?
Well, there are a few key factors. Python is known for having a super clear syntax, which just means it's relatively easy to learn and get a handle on, especially compared to some other programming languages.
I can only imagine.
Right. But don't let its simplicity fool you. It's incredibly versatile. Think about Instagram, for example. Did you know their whole platform is largely powered by Python?
Get out. No way, I had no idea. So this is like real world stuff, not just some abstract coding concept.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just building websites. Python's used extensively in data analysis. They call it data crunching, where it basically helps make sense of these massive amounts of information to find patterns and interesting insights.
And that's useful for?
Oh, tons of stuff. Finance, healthcare research, you name it.
So even if, say, someone has zero desire to ever become a programmer, having even like a basic understanding of how a language like Python works kind of gives them a peek behind the curtain of all this technology we're surrounded by all the time.
Exactly. Like it's sort of like understanding how a car engine works. Even if you're not a mechanic, you don't need to build one from scratch, but you can still appreciate the power and complexity of it.
That's a good analogy. Okay, that totally makes sense. Now, what about those libraries and frameworks? Those sounded a little intimidating.
Yeah, no, those terms sound way more complicated than they actually are. The way I like to think of them is like pre-built blocks of code. So instead of having to write every single line from scratch, these libraries provide all these ready-made tools and functions that really speed up the development process. Like a couple of examples are Django and Flask. They're both Python frameworks that are widely used for web development.
So it's like having a toolbox where half the tools you need are already there waiting for you.
Precisely. And on top of all of that, Python has this amazing, very supportive community.
Yeah, that's something I definitely picked up on in my research. Like, you're not just out there on your own when you're trying to figure this stuff out.
Which makes a huge difference when you're learning something new. There are tons of resources out there, forums, online communities where you can get help, you can share what you're working on, and connect with other Python enthusiasts, as you might say.
It sounds like knowing Python is becoming a pretty valuable skill to have these days. Almost like a superpower.
It's definitely becoming more and more valuable across a lot of different industries. Like, as automation and data analysis become even more integrated into everything, having even just a basic understanding of a programming language like Python, it can open doors, give you a leg up even.
Music to my ears. So for our listeners who have been, diligently taking notes this whole time, what would you say is the most important thing to take away from all of this?
I think Python's power isn't just in what it can do, but in how accessible it is. It's a language that even beginners can approach and learn, but it's still robust enough to do some really complex stuff. It's like a gateway, really, to understanding not only how technology works, but how our whole data-driven world operates.
Ooh, I like that, a gateway. And on that note, if you're feeling adventurous after this deep dive, why not look up a simple Python tutorial online? Seriously, you might be surprised how intuitive it actually is. It could be the start of something really cool.